My girlfriend of 5 years told me that my proposal was embarrassing and the ring was cheap. I didn't say a word. The following day, I returned the ring and used the entire amount as a down payment on my dream car. The next day, I drove past her and gave a little honk. So, I think I might have set a new record for the shortest engagement ever. 455 seconds, according to the imaginary judges in my mind. It was so quick it felt like it traveled back in time to ensure it never happened. My girlfriend. Well, let's get used to saying this. Ex-girlfriend Jessica and I had been together for 5 years. 5 years. That's longer than some presidential terms, and even the original run of certain classic TV shows. The first few years were genuinely wonderful. But then, slowly, she fell into the draining vortex of influencer culture. Our life together shifted from something we lived to something she curated. For example, last year for our anniversary, I saved up and booked this fantastic secluded cabin in the mountains. I'm talking about a fireplace, starry nights, hiking trails, the whole romantic getaway. I was so thrilled. But she spent the first 4 hours complaining that the woods didn't have good lighting for selfies and that the cabin was too rustic for her brand aesthetic. Her brand? She sells scented candles on Etsy to about 90 followers. Her brand is making our apartment smell like vanilla. Her friends, whom I call the Brunch Brigade, are the same. A few weeks ago, I was unfortunate enough to be present when one of their friends got engaged. I watched Tiffany and Madison dissect the poor girl's ring photo on Instagram. 2 carats? Is he a farmer? And that cut is so 2019. It was a masterclass in casual cruelty. That should have been my warning sign, a huge, flashing neon sign saying, "Abort mission, Liam." But I was in love. We're fools, right? So I decided to propose. I spent almost a year saving money. I didn't want to get her the same generic ring all her friends had. I wanted something meaningful. I went to an incredible local artisan jeweler named Sarah, who creates magic with metal and stone. I told her about Jessica, the real Jessica, the one who used to love hiking, and mentioned that her favorite color was the deep blue of the sky after a storm. Together, we designed a custom ring. It featured a stunning, ethically sourced sapphire as the main stone, the exact shade of that sky, surrounded by intricate silver leaf designs. It was unique, thoughtful, and it cost $10,000. I'm an IT project manager, not a hedge fund manager. 10 grand is a big deal for me. Yesterday was the day I had planned everything out. No crowds, no cliches. I took her to the scenic overlook where we had our first real date 5 years ago. I packed a picnic basket with champagne, her favorite fancy cheeses, the whole works. The sun was setting, and it was perfect. I got down on one knee. Her eyes widened. I pulled out the custom-made wooden box, my heart pounding like a drum against my ribs. I gave her the whole speech about our journey, my love for her, and my desire to spend my life with her. Then I opened the box. Her face, which had been filled with excited anticipation, just fell. It didn't droop. It crashed like a market plummet. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was glancing around, as if worried someone might see us. "Oh my God, Liam," she whispered, her voice resembling the tone she used when she found a spider in the bathtub. "Is this it? There's no one here to take a picture." My brain felt like a dial-up modem trying to connect to a website from 1998. The screeching was deafening. "I thought that was the point," I stammered. "Just us." She finally glanced down at the ring in the box. She didn't even reach for it. "It's cute," she said, and the word landed like an anvil. "It's a really nice promise ring, maybe, but the stone isn't even a diamond. It just looks so cheap." Cheap. My $10,000 custom designed, ethically sourced, meaningful ring was cheap? I don't recall standing up. I don't remember packing the picnic basket. All I can recall is the drive home. It was the longest, quietest hour of my life. She kept sighing loudly every few minutes, a sound meant to prompt me to speak, to apologize for the profound insult of my proposal. I kept my eyes on the road. When we got home, she announced that she was too emotionally overwhelmed to talk and locked herself in the bedroom. I'm sitting on the couch right now. She's probably in there texting the Brunch Brigade about the horror she just experienced. She thinks I'm out here heartbroken, mourning the future we were supposed to have. A part of me is, but a much larger part is on my laptop. The tab for the local Ford dealership has been open for a month. I've been building my dream car online, a Ford Bronco, just for fun. She wanted a rock. I think I'd rather have 300 horsepower. Update. Good morning, Reddit. It's been a wild 18 hours. Thanks for all the comments. Reading them last night while I wallowed in my own misery genuinely helped. I woke up at dawn. I hadn't slept. I just lay on the couch replaying the word cheap in my head over and over. Around 6 a.m., I got up. Jessica was still asleep in the bedroom, the queen in her castle of disappointment. I grabbed the ring box from my jacket, my wallet, my keys, and quietly walked out of the apartment. My first stop was the jeweler. Sarah, the owner, was just preparing her shop for the day. When she saw me walk in and noticed the box in my hand, her warm smile faded. "Oh, honey, no." I shook my head. "It was cheap," I said. She looked at me completely confused. I gave her the 30-second version of the story. The overlook, the picnic, the cringe-worthy moment, the promise ring. When I finished, she removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "That girl," she said, "does not deserve a man who knows what a sapphire is." Her love was based on carat size. You, my dear, have dodged a cannonball. Because she's a literal saint and a savvy businesswoman who understands a good story, she gave me a full refund and said she'd display the ring in her case as a one-of-a-kind piece. I walked out of there with a cashier's check for $10,000. The responsible voice in my head, which sounds a lot like my dad, told me to go straight to the bank and deposit the check back into my savings. It advised me to be smart and mature. I told that voice to shut up. I drove straight to the Ford dealership. I walked in with the energy of a man who had nothing to lose. The first salesman who approached me, a young guy named Dave with an incredibly earnest tie, asked, "Looking to upgrade?" "Something like that," I said, pulling the check out of my pocket. "I just liquidated a failed long-term investment and want to reinvest the funds into a more reliable asset, specifically that Bronco over there." Dave's eyes lit up. He probably thought I was crazy, but he also sensed a commission, an asset with 300 horsepower and an optional snorkel. 2 hours later, after the most freeing paperwork I've ever signed, I was the owner of my dream truck. I drove out of that dealership with the windows down, blasting Queen at an obnoxiously loud volume. The new car's smell and the rumble of the engine were glorious. I got home around noon. Jessica was in the kitchen with a mug of coffee and a deeply displeased expression. She expected me to come crawling back with apologies and maybe a new, less cheap ring. "There you are," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I was starting to think you were ignoring me. Are you ready to apologize and discuss how we're going to fix this disaster?" I just looked at her, pulled the new Ford key fob out of my pocket, and gave it a little jingle. The Bronco chirped happily from the street below. "Can't talk right now," I said. "Got to go run some errands." I turned and walked back out the door, leaving her standing there in complete bafflement. The look on her face was better than any apology I could have received. Final update. Good evening, everyone. For those of you keeping track of this emotional roller coaster, welcome to the last stop. The final confrontation took place about an hour ago. I returned from a victorious drive, and Jessica was waiting for me, arms crossed. The benevolent Queen act was gone, replaced with pure CEO-level fury. "Liam, we need to talk about this right now," she commanded. "I've decided that I'm willing to forgive you for the pathetic proposal. We can work on it, but we need to go back and get the ring." I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. "Oh, the ring?" I said, keeping my tone light and breezy. "Yeah, that's not happening. I returned it this morning. Got a full refund. Turns out the jeweler has a no-taste-in-partners return policy." Her jaw actually dropped. It was comical. "You returned it without asking me? What did you do with the money?" "Ah, see, that's the best part," I said, leaning against the kitchen counter. "I took that $10,000 and, in a moment of extreme financial clarity, used it as a down payment on a brand new Ford Bronco. She's parked outside. Her name is Bessie, and she's not cheap. She's just built Ford tough." I had never seen a human face twist through so many shades of rage. It was like a mood ring having a seizure. "You spent our money on a truck," she screamed, the word "our" doing some heavy lifting. "Nope," I said, popping the P. "Let's be clear. I spent my money, which I saved for a year, for your ring, which you called cheap and embarrassing, on my truck, which I think is awesome. You made your choice at the overlook. You didn't want the ring, so I exchanged it for something that would never look at me with disappointment unless I forgot to change the oil." The argument, if you can call it that, quickly deteriorated. She called me a child, selfish, and said I was throwing away 5 years. I corrected her. "You threw it away when you valued a public spectacle over a private moment and a price tag over a promise." She did what I knew she would. She called the brunch brigade. A minute later, my phone started buzzing. It was Tiffany. I answered on speakerphone. Liam, Jessica is in tears. How could you be so immature and cruel? Well, Tiffany, I said cheerfully, she called my lifelong commitment cheap, so I invested in a V6 engine instead. It's called diversifying your emotional portfolio. Tell her to have a nice life. I hung up and blocked her number, then Madison's, then Jessica's. I told her I wanted her and all her curated belongings out of my apartment by the end of the week. The real finale, the petty little bow on top of this whole situation, came this afternoon. I was heading out to grab some celebratory pizza and beer. I fired up the Bronco, and as I pulled onto the street, I saw her standing on the sidewalk with 3 suitcases, furiously tapping at her phone, waiting for her Uber. I couldn't resist. I slowed the truck down to a crawl. She looked up and saw me. Our eyes met through the windshield. I gave her a big, friendly, unbothered grin and tapped the horn twice. Honk honk. Then I hit the gas, leaving her and her luggage in a cloud of dust. Watching her shrink in my rearview mirror felt like the first day of the rest of my life. She wanted a status symbol, but didn't realize the man offering it was meant to be the prize. I guess I'm a fixer-upper, but at least the Bronco comes with a warranty. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Time for that pizza.